It is Locked On Jazz for the 21st of July. What did we learn from the Bucks winning an NBA title, and what does it mean about where the Jazz move forward? A first look at an interesting guard out of Ohio, James Preston. It's all coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by Spotify Green Room, changing the way we talk about sports. Thank you to everybody for all the nice notes yesterday about my work anniversary with the Utah Jazz. It doesn't happen on LinkedIn, just in real Twitter. So thank you very much for everyone who left the nice notes about that. I do appreciate it. It's been, as I said in my tweet, it was a dream of mine when I was a young kid. I'm the kid who at 9, 10, 11, we're not quite sure, said to my dad, I want to be that guy, to be Hot Rod Hundley, and then actually had that happen. As I've said to also another good friend, they've asked me, like, what would have I done if I wasn't a play-by-play announcer? And I've said, I don't know. So there is something to be said to having a one-dimensional dream and not having any idea what else I could do in life. So it has been beyond my wildest dreams. My access to the team, my friendship with some of the coaches, being around brilliance every day, working for the organization, the Miller family, overwhelming. Excited to see where Ryan Smith takes us, and the interactions I've had with him have been amazing. So quite frankly, it's been beyond anything I dreamed of as a kid. It's been better, which is really cool. So thank you for all those nice notes. All right. I'm going to come from two different things to start today's show. I want to talk about, we're going to talk about what the Bucks just did, what it means to win a championship, how you win a championship, what it means for the Utah Jazz. And then I have a draft. I watched Preston. I watched Jason Preston out of Ohio against Illinois last night on the plane. I'm in Virginia, if you can't see that on the back of our YouTube video. By the way, we're not going live today. We're trying something to go non-live. It'll just be up on YouTube. I'd prefer to go live. There's some discussion that the algorithms mean that it never gets discovered that way, which is a really big bummer. So we're going to try it this way for a day, do some samples, testing. We're just learning. And see. So this will be up on YouTube as well, and eventually that'll be on Locked On Jazz. Right now it's on Locked On Live. All right. There's two thoughts I have right out of the chute about the Bucks winning a championship. One is, oh my gosh, I sat there the whole time watching that game thinking, and even texted Ron, like, what would it be like to call that? I actually listened to Milwaukee Bucks play-by-play announcer Ted Davis for most of that broadcast. What would it be like to call that? Which to you is, what would it have been like to root for that? What would it be like to be either in the arena or in the 65,000 people? I'm assuming we would have turned Washington Square downtown into a viewing party of some sort. I'm sure we would have turned the plaza into a viewing party of some sort. Maybe had multiple. Like, what would it be like? I mean, oh my gosh, it'd be so incredible, overwhelming, amazing. Like, I would just die for it. I would die for it. To be able to call, I don't know if I could do it. Like, the emotion, I'm already so emotional. Like, Ted Davis was brilliant last night of able to, like, I've called it's not an NBA championship game, but I've called a WNBA championship game, and I remembered calling that game. It was like the least emotional I've ever been. One, because you have to hold it under control. And two, because the crowd is so energetic and so amazing, you actually don't need to bring a lot of juice as the announcer. You can just hear it. And so it was true last night listening to the radio broadcast. Like, Ted Davis was really calm, and you could just hear defense. Like, the energy and the electricity on every possession from the arena was amazing. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. Oh my gosh, I would die for it. So with that said, yes, all of our dreams, all of our hopes as fans, as announcers, as players, as general managers, as whatever should be, like they have to actually do work. We actually just get to ride the coattails of it. Should be to get to that moment because it would be that incredible. At the same time, at the very same time, I'm left with a very different reaction to that. What it takes to win a championship is so astronomically difficult, statistically abnormal, and out of the real realm of possibility that for us to like be living a life where that crescendo moment is all we're asking for, all we want, and all we drive for is foolhardy. Let me explain this. Yes, Milwaukee is on the pinnacle and it's the greatest thing ever. But what Phoenix got this year, what we got this year, what the Clippers got this year, what Philadelphia got, and they fell out when we did, the drive, the long-term entertainment, the number one seed, the enjoyment, the road, the journey, pretty valuable as a fan. And as a front office building a team, I think you're going to make way more mistakes and leave yourself in really significant despair building your franchise with the sole single goal of winning a championship, because I'll walk through it here for you in a second. It's insane. You're much better off building your franchise to getting you to a point of competitiveness of what I always talk about is the final four spots in your conference. We did that this year. Like Atlanta did that too. Was Atlanta that much, like is Atlanta's season that much, but they got the right matchup at the right time. They got to the conference finals. They deserve great credit. They made offseason moves that I didn't like, but turned out to be fabulous. They complemented their young players perfectly, and they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's an incredible season for them. It's an incredible season for us too. And it's an incredible season for the Clippers. Like, I think getting to the final four of your conference, you're now playing a matchup game. Like, I watched that series. I don't know that we beat Phoenix or Milwaukee. I'm not about to give you some bull crap about that, and I think it's disrespectful to them to do it. But we could have played that series far better than we could have played our Clippers series. Now, Giannis has gone to another level. But I do think we could have played in that series better than we could have played in the Clippers series, and we got a bad matchup. And to some extent, Philadelphia might have gotten a bad matchup with Atlanta. And Milwaukee might have avoided bad matchups, because I actually think Philadelphia is a bad matchup, really, really bad matchup for Milwaukee. Giannis gets guarded by Ben Simmons, and Embiid sits at the rim. Thibault goes and guards Middleton. That's a bad matchup for Milwaukee, and they didn't have to face it. So part of this quest for a championship is this incredible insanity of like getting the matchups. But that's only part of it. And that is first of all, Giannis was astronomically awesome. Astronomically awesome. And I don't know that there are many guys in the world that can do that. Right? Like when it gets right down to it, Devin Booker was outstanding. Giannis was just that notch better. He needed Middleton. He needed Brook Lopez for 33 against Atlanta. But that was one of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 greatest performances in the history of the NBA Finals and the history of the NBA last night. So to win a title, the first thing you have to have is that. How many guys really are that? Like Donovan's really, really special. And part of me thinks that Donovan has that special pizzazz and that special element, and that to get, like, if he get in 8 years into the league, I think there's a chance that Donovan has that. Like that. Remember, Giannis and Middleton have been together for 8 years. It's taken 8 years. Donovan just finished year 4. And the last two have been funky. But I think if you go back to LeBron's first title, I think it's year 7. And Kawhi, it's like year 7. And it's like, this is what it takes, is this progression of time. But then even more than progression of time is an absolutely astronomical performance of superhuman level that's been unequaled. And that's really what it takes. Like Anthony Davis was that last year in the finals. Kawhi Leonard was that in the finals 3 years ago. LeBron was that in the finals multiple times. Steph Curry. Like, is it really realistic, honestly, realistic to expect to have a player on your roster that can do that? Or to even expect anyone on your roster to do that? Because that's the first thing it takes to win a title. And that was incredible. Absolutely mind-boggling, blowing, astronomically incredible. The will and the desire and the effort and the just unbending commitment to making every play. I can't believe the guy didn't pass out. I didn't think the Bucks were going to win because of the amount of effort that Giannis had put out in the first 3 quarters, and he somehow summoned more in the fourth. Incredible. So that's the first thing. And so part of me, while I start this show talking about how amazing it would be, and it would be that amazing, to be solely, not to lose that in any way, shape, or form, but to build and think of building franchises solely with that one singular piece as the only expectation and the only way to build your roster, I think you can make a lot of mistakes. I'll elaborate on that in a second, because there's so many little things that have to happen even to get to that point with that astronomical superhuman performance. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also in Logan. The Chevy lineup of trucks is the Silverado as well as the Colorado, and there's really nothing that equals those two trucks out there in the market. The Silverado is the lush, plush, powerful pizzazz. It's got the finesse and the beauty of Giannis, and it's got this power and strength of Giannis. When you're driving, you feel like you're sitting in a lazy boy chair, feeling like it's the most comfortable ride in the world, the Silverado. And then when you need the power and the punch, the Silverado does it with a great Chevy built. The Colorado's the smaller, easier to use, a little more fun zipping around kind of truck for you, day-to-day truck, not quite the power of the Silverado, and more affordable, absolutely fabulous. Plus a great SUV lineup as well. It's over at Woods Cross and in Logan. It is Murdoch Chevy, Utah, for 80 plus years, the Murdochs and Chevy together. Today's show is also brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Join Spotify Green Room, the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app is free to download. And once you're in, you can talk with fans, other hosts, athletes, insiders in real time about your favorite team or sport. We've had multiple locked on green rooms going on. Download the Green Room app today. Green Room, changing the way we talk about sports. Find a group yourself or host the group amongst your friends as well. Ben Dowsett does a bunch of really good things with the Jazz on there, so give a shout out to Ben for that. Spotify Green Room. The Ultimate Mock Draft is up and running. Hope you've grabbed it, subscribed to it. It's a separate feed. It's called the Ultimate Mock Draft, and day 2 and 3 are up. We're through 15 picks of the draft. Here's some other thoughts about the Bucks championship and the championship. Kevin Durant's foot is not on the line. They don't win the title. Think about that. So then, if Kevin Durant's foot is not on the line, they lose. Do they fire Bud? Do they blow the whole thing up? Like, that's what the call would have been. And yet, it's that little tiny incremental toe on the line against Brooklyn in Game 7 that's the difference between them winning a title and not winning a title. And that's a little bit of my point of where, like, drastic, outlandish movements by a front office in response to not winning a title seem to me to be really misguided. So let's take the Jazz for this point. Okay, by the way, here are the things, right? Like, let's just run through this title. So and this is what it takes. So you have to have the superhuman performance with Giannis, which means you have to have Giannis. Durant's foot has to be on the line. You have to have somebody on your roster like Brook Lopez who can drop 33 against Atlanta when Giannis is out. Let's say Devin Booker pulls from 15 in game 5 instead of getting into the lane one step too far, allowing Drew Holiday to steal it to throw that alley-oop to win, and Devin Booker pulls from 15 and hits. Phoenix wins. Like, that play swung the whole series, right? They're down 1. Who knows? But, like, they're down 1 with limited time, 15 seconds or so. Devin Booker pulls right side. He's not a great clutch player. He hasn't been yet in his career. He's still early on, right? So, I mean, there's just all these little moments in time. For the Bucks, like, the moments in time are like they run into Toronto 2 years ago, which is the bad matchup. And they build that incredible with their athleticism of Kawhi and Pascal Siakam and a young OG Anunoby and the fight of Kyle Lowry. Like, Milwaukee's not ready for that yet. Giannis in his 6th year, they build the wall. Giannis is awful in that series. Awful. And Milwaukee's not ready for it yet. And they get blasted. And they don't blow it up. And then they go to the bubble. And the George Floyd murder takes place. And George Hill and Sterling Brown, and really George Hill leads the locker room into the player boycott. And it just, whether they've kind of been very delicate about saying this, but it disrupts everything about their roster and what's going on and where their locker room is and what emotion they're feeling. And then they have, they have the issue with Blake in Kennesaw, Washington, or Kennesaw, Wisconsin. And so now they're in the middle of this and they're suddenly playing basketball and social justice, and it's too much. And Giannis sprains an ankle and they fall apart against Miami. And I think they very astutely looked at that and said, okay, there's a lot of extenuating circumstances here with what took place here, and they don't blow it up. They make little changes. Bobby Portis, a 1-year, $3 million contract for a backup center. Like, that's outstanding. We've talked about that. Pat Connaughton, great recognition of which of your guys you want. They win without Dante DiVincenzo, who's an important piece to them, and he gets hurt, and they survive it without this playoff run. They add little pieces like Bryn Forbes that are good regular season pieces, but probably too small to play in the postseason, but they work for them. They little around the edges. They add PJ Tucker at the end, and obviously the massive Drew Holiday deal. Understanding that, hey, we're not good enough, but we don't need to torch this thing. The Jazz did something actually similar with Mike Conley. Like, Mike Conley is our Drew Holiday deal. We didn't give away quite as much as they did. And maybe Drew Holiday's younger and a little bigger and has some things, but he also can't shoot the way Mike Conley can. We've kind of done that deal. And so here we sit now as a franchise. Let's get to the Jazz, where we lost in the second round, and the instinct is to say, oh, we got to do something dramatic. Maybe not. Maybe not totally run it back. I'm not the greatest believer in that just because I think teams get stale. But maybe it's not dramatic. Maybe it's as subtle as, instead of having an Elijah Hughes at the end of your bench, you have a Frank Kaminsky. I'm not saying I'm just using an example. Like Frank Kaminsky, who's played very sparingly, is a veteran center that Phoenix added on the end of their bench with veterans, was able to play last night and was really good. Maybe it just has to only play in Wisconsin, and then he's good. He was really good last night. If that's a second round, if that's Juwan Morgan, I like Juwan Morgan. I don't know that Game 6 of the NBA Finals is the time when Juwan Morgan's going to have an impact yet in his career. But Frank Kaminsky had been to an NCAA title, played in the league for 5 years, like he was ready for that moment. So maybe that's the changes we need to make. It's not this big, dramatic overhaul, massive move. We were the number 1 seed. Can we be the number 1 seed again? I don't know. Was the number 1 seed unique to a COVID year where we were better prepared, had more continuity, other teams were resting? Maybe. Got to evaluate that. But to me, I look at it, and the West is going to be better next year because the Warriors are going to be good, and I think Minnesota is going to be better, and the West just is always better. But if the Clippers, but if Kawhi's out for the year, then maybe they're not. And Jamal Murray's probably out for the most of the year, so maybe not. But I look at this as we're one of the top 4 teams in the West. What little tiny things on the fringes can we change? Because the core pieces that we have are pretty darn good. And unless something's like for this moving, I've seen the rumors about Ingles and Bogdanovich, and I said, like, it's Ingles, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, and O'Neal. Like, they're the piece and Favors in a different way. Like, those are the 5 pieces you can move if you want to change the Jazz. But I think if you're learning a little bit from Milwaukee, yeah, there's changes to be made. They made the Holiday deal. We made our Mike Conley deal. That's our next piece. That's our help to Donovan and Bojan. We have the scoring. Conley, Bogdanovich, Mitchell, that's enough. That's enough different guys to win a title. Bogdanovich is our Lopez who could go give us 33 if Donovan goes out for a game in the playoffs. Right? That's our 33. That's probably the right mix. And so, we prop Joe Ingles as our expensive Pat Connaughton a little bit. We have those pieces. We showed we were as good as anyone. We got a really bad matchup. We didn't get – if Terrence Mann – I know this feels scrappy, but if Terrence Mann doesn't have the shooting night of his life, maybe we win that game. And then Terrence Mann's lacking confidence in the next game, is not willing to take that shot, so that strategy works a little better, even against a matchup that was bad. It's little incremental, tiny things. And it leads me watching that to think, one, that the overall unbending goal only of a championship is a foolhardy way to build your team. Because it takes something superhuman. Maybe Donovan's got that in him. And it just takes like these little tiny bounces. The Derek Fisher shot for the Lakers against the Spurs. The offensive rebound kick out to Ray Allen. The Kevin Durant's foot on the line, or else you don't win a title. And ours, in some ways, might have been just Donovan Mitchell's ankle and Mike Conley's hamstring. All right, I want to talk about Jason Preston. I have one or two other just kind of thoughts on how awesome it is that Milwaukee won from a Jazz standpoint on today's show as well. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar, a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Orange, strawberry, coconut, mint brownie, salted caramel, raspberry, double chocolate cookies and cream, and cherry barcia are the 9 core flavors. Right now, you're getting a free travel cooler as well with every purchase. It's actually pretty cool. It's like a $15 value, so that's actually not like a minor little deal to get in there. New Built Bites are there, Built Boost and Built Broth. 130 calories, 2.5 fat grams, 4 net carbs, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein. Frankly, Built Bar is the candy protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. I want to tip my hat to Built as well. They're on a mission to feed elementary school students, so they're giving back to kids to do everything they can. They're also official protein bar of the U.S. ski and snowboard and U.S. track and field teams. So nice to see them supporting our U.S. teams as well as our local community. It's all at built.com. Promo code is LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 to get 15% off. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at betonline.ag. Have you taken advantage of the 50% welcome bonus? If you're going to play on betonline.ag with the 50% welcome bonus. That's free money for you. What are the full slate of Major League Baseball for you on this Wednesday? The Mariners and the Rockies are matching up. Rockies are a 1.5 favorite. Madison Bumgarner's on the mound for the Diamondbacks against the Pirates on an early afternoon game today you could get in on. There's also a bunch of in-game betting you can do as well. Giants and Dodgers tonight, another one. Dodgers are 1.5 favorite and plus 123 with the Giants minus 143. Over under in that game is 8 runs. So you can play that as well. If you want to get on some early NFL future prop bets before the season, the Super Bowl right there, or odds to win the AFC, the Chiefs are plus 270, then the Bills plus 700, and the Ravens plus 900. It's all at betonline.ag. By the way, I wonder if the odds changed on the injury yesterday on the Rams. Buccaneers are plus 300, Rams plus 700, Niners plus 700, Packers plus 800, and Seahawks plus 1,100 to win the NFC. It's all at betonline.ag. Promo code Locked On gets you 50% welcome bonus. Locked On NBA Mock Draft. I mentioned it to you already. It's the ultimate. Plus, we have the live TV show this year. Pretty awesome. All right. Few other notes on the Bucks. One, Giannis saying and them winning a title is like the greatest thing that could ever happen for Utah. right? I want to win it here. I don't need to get into the team. This is a guy who hasn't played the congenial, all go work out together, become buddy, join as a power team together. He's opposite. When he got invited to go work out for Carmelo and work out with the guys, he said no. There's been a little undercurrent inside the league of like, give everybody else pub instead of Giannis, even from the players themselves. Because Giannis hasn't wanted to play that game. Giannis hasn't wanted to be that guy. Rudy hasn't wanted to be that guy. He doesn't want to be going hanging out with everyone. I do think, like, a story that I don't think was told a lot about the Bucks in the last days is kind of the whole fact that they were the social justice leading team last year, the first to boycott, the first to have an impact in that way. They were in the midst of all of that, and the burden and it had on last season for them from a pure basketball standpoint, worth it, but from a basketball standpoint. And then I think the other one that's really interesting is the new ownership group that took over Milwaukee and changed them. Herb Kohl, very similar to the Millers. And he was a senator from Milwaukee. He was incredible for their town. He's one of the great people ever. He actually did amazing things for Giannis and got his family citizenship. Probably part of the reason why Giannis was loyal coming back to Milwaukee. Really just an amazing, amazing man. But Herb Kohl is one of the great people in the world, the same way the Millers are. And then the Lazarys take over. Their New York venture capital firm, feeling largely that they're actually in Milwaukee to move the franchise, was like a super common feeling around the league. They build this brand new arena, Pfizer Forum, which is amazing. They modernize the brand of the Bucks. They bring them kind of forward. They have this rockin' superstar in Giannis, and they push the Bucks forward into being kind of a hot, interesting team. They do obviously Giannis drives it, but their new building and the upright in a city that has some comparisons to Utah. Like, nobody wants to go play in Milwaukee. It's cold as hell, and it's downtrodden, and it's been notoriously Sterling Brown experienced it. They have notorious stories of police brutality against blacks in Milwaukee. That multiple Sterling Brown experienced it. Like, they have, like, it's not there's some parallels here, hopefully, for the Jazz in, 8th year for Giannis. Like, it means Donovan's got to decide to stay and want to win it the same way Giannis does. And Ryan Smith has to be the Lazarus, and we're not building a new arena, but we're modernizing. We're changing our brand a little bit. We're doing, like, there's some real parallels there between the two and moving a city forward. I think Milwaukee is viewed as a different city today, the way Ryan Smith wants Salt Lake City to be advanced in all of our strengths rather than being talking about our weaknesses. So I think it's an interesting parallel. All right, I watched Ohio's Jason Preston last night. He's an interesting player. He's 21 years old. He's 6'4". He's a pure point guard. I'm intrigued by him, and here's why. He's big. He's 6'4". He plays an entirely pro game. So he'll come off the pick and roll, put you on his hip, shoot a little floater. He shot the three really well last year at 39% for the second straight year. He shot it at 41% the year before. His game actually has a little bit of a like LaMelo or Lonzo Ball shot to it in the way that he approaches it. But he also shoots the two really well. He shot 51% both the last years. 2 years ago, he played 38 minutes a game. He's got an interesting life story, frankly. Like, he was raised by his mom, who passed away while he was a junior in high school without a dad in his life. I think he's had to battle a little bit, and he's got some tenacity to him. He's not an elite athlete in any way, shape, or form. And maybe after, like, some of my misses are always falling in love with the elite athlete because that's the non-teachable skill. But he plays at his own pace. He plays with change of pace. He plays with hesitation, almost Kyle Anderson-esque. Not as big as Kyle Anderson. He's in total control. He sees the game. He throws a great ahead pass. He plays off the pick and roll correctly. He comes off screens by changing his pacing to, he's not going to sprint around and beat you like a really good athlete, like a Pat Connaughton. Instead, he's kind of slow coming, boom, boom, boom. And then he goes and changes it up on you. Same thing with the dribble drive. He was going up against I thought I had it. Desmoy. No, Io, the Illinois guard. I thought I had it. I practiced. I thought I had it. Yeah, I don't have it. Desmo, yeah, whatever. Darn it. No offense, please, to Io. But here's an elite Illinois point guard's a first-round draft pick. Also, elite, big, strong defensive player. Really interesting. Gets to the rim. Exact opposite. Super defensive player. Preston has him on the right side. Hesitation, blows by him for a layup. I watched him against Illinois. I think it has to be one of the greatest games he's ever played. It was only his second game of the year this year. But it's the one time he played a marquee team, and he was brilliant. He buried every three imaginable. Again, it is a Lonzo Ball kind of release, not the cockeyed thing, but just the low. And it is a hesitate. I liked him a lot. He actually kind of looks a little bit like he's got a little bit of a Lonzo Ball game to him. I think he could probably play 15 minutes a night. I'm interested in him, and I'm interested in him for two reasons. One is, I don't know enough as someone who's watching the game to know whether that type of player is one who is able to just, his lack of athleticism prevents him from being good, or his understanding of his lack of athleticism means he's really NBA ready. And that he'll be able to figure it out. But my instinct on him is that he'll be able to play 15 minutes a night. Now, defensively, he was a train wreck. And so maybe that's too much. Maybe he's Gervais Vasquez, who used to play in the NBA and was kind of successful, but then when you really had to defend, he couldn't defend enough. But I thought, I don't know. I'm interested. I'm very intrigued by Jason Preston as someone I'll watch coming up for a few years. He's got an NBA ready game. He's a true point guard. He sees the floor. He involves teammates. He understands spacing on the floor. He plays at his own tempo. He played in the half court. He played with hesitation. He scored it. He beat guys that were better athletes with him with his hesitation. Defensively, he was not good. He's not an elite athlete. He's not playing over the rim. He's playing kind of in that mid-range little short game, but he seems to be kind of actually I would expect that he could come in like Desmond Bane did last year as an older player and play 15 minutes NBA night. If I'm Memphis, I would think he's a backup point guard to John Morant would be amazing. A little different, a little calmer, collects the game, slows it down a little bit, would be great. All right, that is Locked On Jazz for today. I'll continue to watch, guys, update you, and hope all's well, and hope this worked on coming onto YouTube as well. And not a live show. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. Thanks very much. Right now, go listen to the Ultimate Mock Draft here from the Locked On Podcast Network in collection with Odyssey. It's a separate feed. It's the Ultimate Mock Draft in your podcast player. Have a great day.